What it do, Durag Nation? Not a lot can surprise me anymore. The drama around the protagonist of Assassin's Creed Shadows, boring and predictable. The delay to polish Shadows after the disappointing launch of Star Wars Outlaws, saw that coming a mile away. But after finally getting the chance to play this game myself, I can honestly say Ubisoft managed to surprise me. And I think you will be too, whether this game is at the top of your most wanted list or you're on the fence. Anyone who has played an open world Ubisoft game before knows what to expect, especially from the Assassin's Creed series, for better or worse. But Assassin's Creed Shadows surprised me by being the one Ubisoft game I was not expecting to break the formula. For sure, Assassin's Creed Shadows is an open world game, and Japan is represented beautifully. You can also expect to progress by unlocking new skills in order to shape your preferred playstyle and finding different colored loot to further enhance your combat tactics. However, Assassin's Creed Shadows, unlike a lot of previous Ubisoft games, puts more trust in the skills of the player and the strength of the narrative. Combat is legitimately challenging, the story of both Naoe and Yasuke is equally compelling, and the large open world and mission design challenge you to uncover the narrative and discover things yourself rather than leading you by the hand or padding the length of the game with a series of fetch quests. Now, I didn't get to play the game under optimal conditions. I'll be playing on the PS5 Pro once I get my actual copy, but for this preview event, I only got 4 hours and I was streaming the game in 1080p remotely on my laptop from my house using one of the Ubisoft servers with the ping ranging from 49 to 50. Definitely far from ideal. And as with all preview events, this was also not the final build and was a work in progress. But despite all that, I walked away from my armchair legitimately impressed by what I played. Before the session was allowed to be recorded, they asked me to pick a character. As somebody who was obsessed with Ghost of Tsushima, I knew going in I was going to spend the most time on Yasuke. As expected, he and Naoe feel completely different. Yasuke is for players like me who want that powerful samurai fantasy of brutally cutting enemies in half, and Yasuke is perfectly designed to convey that. He's about more power than finesse, but he can still move swiftly enough to parry and dodge enemy attacks. Naoe, on the other hand, will immediately appeal to the old school Assassin's Creed player who wants to be quick and agile, taking out enemies from the shadows or dismantling them face to face by being evasive and precise. There's also a pretty huge surprise for OG Assassin's Creed players that I will not be spoiling here. The game allows you to switch between the two whenever you want, giving you the freedom to tackle missions with a different approach or get the heat off you if you manage to trigger the wanted status, which I pretty much spent this entire preview session with, leading to certain enemies attacking on sight. It was good practice to get comfortable with the combat system. Like any proper RPG, you will be offered different dialogue options, though I'm unsure based on the little I played how impactful they will be. Based on the fact Ubisoft gives you the option to default to the canon choices, the implication is that your choices could lead to very different outcomes. I also haven't yet seen if your actions out in the open world will shape the narrative any further. I accidentally cut up a civilian that I mistakenly thought was one of the people coming after me, and I saw a message pop up noting that Yasuke never harms civilians, though the game didn't stop me from harming that particular civilian if that's the sort of thing you're looking to do in the game. For those who play Assassin's Creed for the stealth, I thought it was decent from what I experienced. It's definitely much easier to pull off with Naoe rather than Yasuke. He's much bigger, his movements aren't as swift, and his parkour can be a little clumsy. Plus, even his assassinations are big and loud, as if daring another enemy to come find out what happened to their ally, compared to Naoe, who quickly disposes of her prey while barely making a sound. The AI also doesn't make it too easy on you. Simply crouching along the roof isn't enough, and you will sometimes have to fully lay down on your stomach to avoid detection. You can also summon certain allies and have them attack enemies for you while you hide out waiting for the perfect chance to strike. With Yasuke though, I just tended to duel everyone as often as possible, which his abilities and tankiness let me get away with. Yasuke can absolutely overpower enemies and has a really cool flash step ability that slices through enemies and puts you behind them, as well as a "This is Sparta" style kick that launches them across the map. It's extremely satisfying. You will absolutely need to master dodging and parrying as the enemies get more challenging, especially those with the spear and the brutes. I found myself later in the session mixing in more gunplay to deal with crowds or large elites that took a ton of damage to bring down. I'm not allowed to talk about most of the story stuff I experienced, but I was all in on the main quest, and it's a good sign for the rest of the game when the first side mission I discovered also felt like it could be part of the main quest line. It wasn't on my objectives, I just literally stumbled into somebody's house and saw a woman being harassed by thugs. Taking them out started the mission, and it's this sort of discoverability that makes the world of Assassin's Creed Shadows feel truly alive. I ran into a few minor bugs, like my mount not showing up when I called, but I can't judge performance too much considering I was streaming the game over Wi-Fi. Nothing game breaking, even when I was surrounded by by a lot of enemies, the game felt very responsive. The graphics were also very impressive. Despite streaming this in 1080p on a laptop, I was several times caught off guard at how sharp the visuals were and how beautiful the Japanese landscape looked. The attention to detail was impressive, especially when it rained. Overall, I'd say I was most impressed with the combat. By the end of the session, I felt like I had gotten pretty good with the sword duels, and I'm excited to do a lot more of it with Yasuke when I have more time to learn the different abilities and perks. Next time I play, I'll also for sure give Naoe more time because the shinobi combat, from the little bit I experienced, was a lot of fun and legitimately feels like you're playing a different game when you swap. All that extra time really paid off, and I think Assassin's Creed Shadows will definitely make a big impact in what is shaping up to be a truly insane year for video games. There are so many potential Game of the Year contenders we could see, and several of them might show up at this secret PlayStation State of Play we just learned about. Click the video on screen to learn more.